Hi, so one of the videos that I want to make for you today is how to throw a pitcher and specifically how to pull a spout. I'm also going to be demonstrating a little bit later how to throw a creamer, which is basically the same thing, just smaller. So I already centered a ball of clay here, and I decided that I did want you to see kind of how you open up a larger ball of clay. Because not everyone does that easily at this point. So I have a centered ball of the dark brown stoneware here, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the clay. So I'm going to start just how we traditionally do it, with the one thumb, right thumb going down, left thumb kind of piggybacked on top of the form. But I don't want to flatten out this clay too much initially, or I'm going to end up with a bowl, not a cylindrical pitcher form. So I'm going to go down as far as I can. And then when I can no longer reach, this is where you want to get your throwing sponge and push that down to go down a bit further. And then you can start to drag that sponge across the bottom of the form a little bit to begin to open it up. Now you can see kind of how deep you're getting. I still have a little ways to go. So I'm going to push down, gently pull out towards me. Now if you're unable to kind of visualize the thickness of your bottom, just use a needle tool and stop the wheel, put the needle tool down, slide your pointer finger down as a measuring tool and pull it out, and you can see that that's how thick my bottom is. That is too thick. So I'm going to go down about that far. So I'm going to continue to push down. So don't be afraid to double check your bottom thickness. In order to really be able to accurately see the thickness of the bottom, I need to get the water out of there. I have a little pond forming in the bottom. Okay, now I'm ready to continue to open up and pull up. So I'm going to pull the clay towards me, dragging my fingertips across the bottom. That is one way. You could also choose to continue to get your sponge down inside and use the tips of your right fingers through that sponge to drag across the bottom, pulling towards you. I am a big believer that there is more than one right way to do something. You just, of course, want to make sure that whatever technique you are using is slow and steady and not going to knock your clay off center. You should be working on the right side of the clay, whether you're left-handed or right-handed. That's how I teach, and I actually find a lot greater success that way. So I'm going to continue to widen out the base. Since this is going to be a pitcher, it's going to have a handle attached, which can kind of throw its weight off a little bit. You don't want a pitcher that has too narrow of a base, or the pitcher will just fall over because of the weight of the handle. So you do want some width to that base. I am almost there, a bit more yet. Now I'm ready to pull up. Now remember, this is a cylindrical form as a pitcher. So right now I'm focused on pulling up and in. This is also a functional form, so there should be a strong emphasis on wall thickness. I actually always push my potters to have thin walls. But you have to also imagine when your lemonade is in your pitcher, you want to make sure you're not going to break your arm trying to lift it. So I'm getting all the way down at that bottom wall where there tends to be a lot of weight and pulling up. Starting way down at that bottom against the bat. I'm actually shaving some clay off. That's okay too. That happens. So we don't want that form flaring out too much, so I'm just going to choke it in a little bit more before I pull up more. Don't let a wobble in the clay psych you out. It can easily be corrected just by steadying your hands and putting pressure on that wall. So I'm going to continue to pull up. I still have some thickness down there. Of our clay bodies that we have at the CV Clay Studio, probably the easiest clay body to throw tall would be the Brooklyn Red, standard brand Brooklyn Red 308. This is the dark brown standard clay, and it is a little less forgiving when it comes to height. Has a lower grog content. All right, I'm getting there in wall thickness. Let's see where I'm at. I'm just kind of feeling the walls. I don't want to be stuck with a little thick right there. Thick walled form would be very disappointing in the end of all this. So right now you can see that I have throwing rings on the form from where my finger pressure is. If you want to smooth out throwing rings, I actually like the appearance of them, but you might want to selectively smooth them out. And after I shape, I think I'm going to smooth them out at the bulge and then leave them in at the rim, or maybe vice versa. I think I might smooth them out at the top this time and leave them in at the bulge. So we'll see. All right, so I want to start to shape the form. A traditional pitcher bulges out towards the bottom and then chokes in at the neck and curves out. And that is so that the fluid flows easily out of the form into the drinking tumbler. So I'm gonna cut my hand on the outside and begin to bulge the form. So right now you can see I kind of have like two bumps there. I'm not really wanting this subtle bump. I don't think that that looks so good. I think I'm just gonna have the one larger bump. I'm pushing out a little bit further down. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave those subtle rings on the bottom, but I wanna show you how to smooth, so I'm gonna smooth out the top. So I'm going to use the curved side of the rib. I like the Mud Tool brand ribs. For this form, I'm going to use the curved side to get that nice curve finished off and choke in the form a little bit. You can see how it's actually changing the shape. And it's also smoothing out those throwing rings where I want them smoothed. I like the contrast on a form, having areas that are textural and having areas that are smooth. So I think one of my motivating factors to why I wanted to smooth the top part out is that's where my spout's going to be. And I was afraid that visually my spout, which is going to be basically a vertical line, would visually battle the rings of the horizontal throwing rings. So I'm going to create a subtle division between where I want my texture and where I want it smooth. Okay, so I'm using this fingernail line to kind of divide that. Now that's of course really sloppy, so I'm going to get in there and refine that division. Okay, so that looks now very purposeful, that contrast between the textural area and the smooth area. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little water out of the inside right now. I don't like leaving water sitting in the bottom. Increases your chances of cracking, can cause the clay to break down a little bit. So, all right, I'm good to go, I think, with creating the form. So now I'm going to pull the spout. The tricky thing is, it's going to be a little tough, I think, to show this on video, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 3-point pull. So I have my thumb and pointer finger of my left hand, and I'm going to pull out with my right. So I'm doing this motion in front of me right now, okay? And so I'm not really pinching, I'm just very subtly pressing my thumb and pointer finger and pulling out with my pointer finger on the inside. And I'm starting pretty low down. I'm going to start right about there. And so I'm going to move up the form. So pushed in, pull out, moved up. So this is what it looks like right now. Okay, so you can start to see that picture spout emerging. It's not extreme or purposeful enough for me quite yet. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it again. Starting at that line where that separates the smooth from the textural, and now I have my spout. So I want to take a little bit of time to re-round the rim of my form. Let me show you what this looks like from above, okay? So that's what it looks like from above. So I'm going to spin the wheel slowly and focus on just touching the areas of the rim that do not have the spout. And I'm going to re-round that a little bit to get a nice circular shape. So I'm lifting my fingers off anytime I come close to the spout. Now, I prefer the appearance of a horizontal finger mark rather than a vertical finger mark. So I'm just going to subtly glide that sponge along the form to clean up some of those sloppy areas. Okay. So this is what we have. We have a lemonade pitcher. So on the next video, I will show you how to attach a handle, pull and attach a handle for your pitcher. See you soon.